We are live. Welcome.
Woo.
Yay!
Yay, yay.
Hi, everyone.
What number are we up to, guys?
19.
19.
Yep.
Damn.
The big
What
one.
a year.
I know.
What a year.
We can drink in 2 more times.
Oh,
We
okay.
can legally drink in the US.
All right. I'm Australian. Started one stream ago.
Nice. Well, while everybody is kind of filtering in and joining us.
I thought this was Unfiltered.
Oh, shit.
Little dad joke there to kick us off. Sorry.
Hey.
He's here. He's arrived. Ladies and gentlemen, Marc Scheff.
Yay. Marc Scheff.
I'll show myself out.
Oh my gosh. So while people are coming into the rooms, we're going to introduce Marc in a second. But yeah, people just want to say, where are you calling in from? That's like my favorite thing to ask every time. Where are you calling in from?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you guys in the world?
We're all New York, right? Hey there, friends. G'day, Ryan. You're in Brooklyn today, Joanne?
I am.
You're in Brooklyn. Erica, Upper East.
I am in my chateau, you guys.
Oh, I'm sorry. South of France or?
No, it's more like, I don't know, Denver or somewhere.
Oh, America.
Yeah, kind of Aspen or Vale. I'm kind of getting those vibes. Yeah.
Okay. What part of the city are you in, Marc? You're in Brooklyn?
I'm in Brooklyn. I'm in Clinton Hill, Brooklyn.
Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm the only upstate one today, up by the river.
Very nice. We got some from Chicago.
Chicago. I love it.
Yeah.
I went there. I'm a fan of Chicago pizza, I will say. I like deep dish. I'll say it.
Do you ever go to Emily Squared over here in New York?
Yep, been to that one, and then a little bit of Aces too in Williamsburg.
Okay,
which is Detroit style, which is kind of in between, I think. It's not as deep as maybe Chicago. I love it, Ryan. First time call, long time listener. Yes. That's a good reference. That goes with yours. Where you calling in from, Joanne?
Totally. I know. It's like late night, like radio talk show.
Oh, you are live. I once got in real trouble with my parents because I went to sleep over at my grandmother's house, and I used to love listening to old time radio, which they used to have like in the 80s. They would play old time radio, which is from the 50s and 60s, and they would do the show, but then they would have people call in and ask questions. And I like was dying to get on the show. I don't know, I was like 8 or something. But I like called in and I actually got on the show and asked a question. And my parents called my grandmother afterward. They were like, "Why is he still awake?" They heard me on the show. They were listening.
Do you remember what your question was?
That was it didn't matter. I was like, I want to be on the radio.
Sweet.
Nice. And then you open up a coaching business and you're basically on the radio and TV all the time. So
yeah.
Full circle.
Mom, Dad, if you're listening, it's 1 p.m. It's fine.
So good. It's within the hours.
I remember. Did you guys ever call in on the radio to request songs?
I'm sure I tried. I don't know if
I definitely did all the time.
Yeah. Did they get on?
Yeah. What is that song?
What was
the disappointment in your voice? What song did you ask for?
We asked that Blue Man Group, I think, song, like the blue song. I don't know. I'm not
gonna say it. Like, 95 or whatever it was. The blue.
Yes.
Oh my God. I think that's like a French band from the 90s or something.
Yes.
They are probably living in their chateau from that song, hopefully.
What, Jared?
They're probably living in their chateau from that song, hopefully.
Yeah.
That is actually true. Yes. Yeah.
They should be.
Everybody gives them like frog gifts for like Christmas and
forever.
birthdays and everything. Yeah, all the holidays.
Good for them.
Natalie, we got somebody from Beirut, Lebanon. Woo woo.
Right on.
International.
Yeah.
I love that.
Amazing. Great. Well, should we kick things off since we're 5 minutes past the hour and we have so many awesome things to cover today.
Yes.
And we are so excited to have Marc Scheff as our esteemed guest. I know, Erica, you don't like the word esteemed, but I love esteemed guest. So I'm going to say Marc's official bio, and then I'm going to give some color. So Marc Scheff is an artist, former designer, and certified professional coach. His clients go beyond the layers of traditional success to find fulfillment in every day. With his creative tools and training, he co-creates with his clients, building bespoke dreams and pathways to get there. And I love that on markscheffcoaching.com, your first page says, you are not a work-life balance, which I love. You are creating every aspect of your life. So that is Marc's official bio. I will say that I've known Marc for decades, like plural decades. So longtime friend and somebody that I respect and admire and look up to so much. We met in the dawn of the internet back in a startup in San Francisco. So Marc has had a front row seat to this whole crazy tech world for many years. And yeah, I love that you have created this life for yourself, that you've just wholeheartedly jumped into coaching to be a stand for people, for creatives mostly, but it really applies to everybody. Since you are an incredible artist as well, illustrator and painter, and you've hosted these wonderful events where people do live painting. And you just completely jumped in with so much gusto and so much commitment. And I will say, when I did the open house for Unleash Creativity, which is his, I'll let Marc describe that, but it's a coaching program for creative people. Just in the open house, it was just like the appetizer to the whole thing. I walked away with something actionable. Like, I actually opened GarageBand and like fucked around with it, which I had been blocked for months and months and months before that.
Waiting on that.
Yeah. So I want to thank you, Marc, for just unlocking that in me and just unlocking so many things for so many people. So it's such an honor and a pleasure to have you here.
Hey.
It's great to be here.
Marc. Thank you.
And yeah, back at you, Joanne. I mean, you're someone who I look to as a creative, a professional, someone who's really going after kind of every aspect of her life and has helped me in my life. We can tell that story. Thank you.
Absolutely. And do you want to tell us a little bit about, what you were up to with coaching, and maybe how people can work with you, but what you're doing?
Sure. I mean, I got into coaching in part, and I'm happy to share all these links and everything, but I've been a creative for many years. I've been in tech for many years before and overlapping with that. And then COVID, right? And I think we might all be sort of experiencing, not obviously, shelter in place like we were in COVID, but the sense I'm getting from our little chat before this and the internet, like everyone's kind of overwhelmed, and that's, for me, that's what COVID really was. I had 2 young kids at home we spent years trying to keep them off screens. Then we were impossible to keep them on screens for school, and just insane. And I had a real depression. There was a few other things that had happened in that time, including leaving a job that was a dream for me. But I started to really examine I'm sad. What is it that makes me happy? What is it that brings me joy? And I created this exercise for myself and discovered that it didn't really look like the path that I thought I was on, which is really confronting, but also really liberating in a way, right? Like, you're going after, I was like going back to get the next job and the thing that I was doing. And, my wife was kind of like, I don't think you should do that. I don't think it made you happy, which of course, I'm like, well, let me go think about that. So I did this exercise, and I discovered that what I really loved was the sort of giving back part. Like, I've always been, every time I learn something, I want to tell everybody about it. I want everyone else to get the benefit that I got out of whatever it is. And that really looked a lot like what I thought coaches do. There's a lot more than that. But I went back and got, actual certification in how to actually do coaching, how to be a coach, and found that it's some of the most creative and fulfilling work of my life. And I think that the process that I went through is something that is available for anyone. And we'll go through part of it today. I know we're gonna get to some exercises today. So I'm excited for that.
Yay! Great.
Yeah, it's very timely time, I feel like, for some of this as well. And I think like creatives in particular can benefit more from some of this guidance and this unblocking that you talked about as well, Joanne. I feel like we work with so many designers and so many creatives, and this is like a time in both the professional market in their jobs, in their careers, which is coming with a whole new set of challenges. And that's one thing to navigate. And you got to do all of that, and you got to be creative, and you got to come up with these great ideas, or the work itself has to have this creative slant to it. It feels like a lot. And I think that, you know, if you're getting too overwhelmed by maybe the search or whatever, you lose sight of the creative joy maybe that got you into a lot of this in the first place. And yeah, I really understand, or think I understand about how important this stuff really is for creatives in particular, and how it can just benefit them every day.
Yeah,
you know?
I think creatives especially understand it. I think it's true and available for really anyone. But I think, you know, when I talk to creatives, and it sounds like, you know, when you talk to creatives, there's a certain kind of like, I don't know if it's like tribal language or, you know, or sort of vocabulary that like we kind of all understand. So these processes might feel a little familiar. What were you going to say, Joanne? Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, well, no, that I'm guessing, you know, Jared and Erica, you know, and where we sit as recruiters. Oh, and by the way, just to introduce you guys too, Jared Tredly, Erica Fortgang, awesome UX design recruiters, woohoo. That I feel like, and I'm guessing you guys too, are fielding these calls with candidates or, you know, job seekers, designers. And I feel like a lot of, like, it's been so hard these last couple of years. Like the market has been so depressed, and people that have never had to interview for jobs are now interviewing at multiple jobs and not getting the job at the end. Like they're always like, you know, like one step away from what they think is going to bring them happiness. And I feel like I've been hearing from a lot of people that they're even doubting that what they're doing is what they want to do. Right? Like, should I leave the industry? Like, should I just do something completely different? Like, is this not, do I not fit in anymore? Is this not for me? Like, am I trying to like fit a square peg into a round hole? And so I think people are really having a crisis of conscience of like, am I even doing the right thing? And Mark, I loved what you had said in one of our earlier calls when the four of us were all talking together, where I think you said something, and, you know, I'll let you fill in the blanks here, but it was something about, you know, people think that like getting that job is going to make them happy, or like getting this accolade or this success is going to give them happiness. But it's really about like, what is happiness to you? And like, can you speak to that a little bit? Because I think
I just looked at the camera and I realized I just want to let people know I do have a black eye. It's I train jujitsu every day. It was an accident. No one's mad. It's fine.
You should see the other guy.
I was just going to say that.
The other guy's also fine. Very good competitor. But yeah, so this idea that I will be happy when is just such a red herring. You know, it's this idea, and the framing that I have around it is about process. You know, like a process versus a goal, and goals are really good, right? Like, you got to get a job. We live in the world, so you know, like, you have to pay your rent. These things are important. It's not like you shouldn't have goals and just like live free, because that's not realistic. And if you're only focused on that, it can generate obviously a lot of worry, a lot of anxiety when you're on that path. You know, whether you're creating a new job or a new piece of art or music or whatever it is, there has to be a way to engage with the process so that you're really in that process and really finding ways to find, you know, whatever kind of joy in that process, whether it's like gamifying your outreach or, you know, whatever you have to do. I love the no game. Have you heard of the no game?
What's that?
So this is why I you know, I work with a lot of creatives, and a lot of creatives are trying to find work, whether it's full-time or you know, contracts or commissions. And you'd be so surprised. I mean, maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but how many people you talk to and you're like, all right, you got your resume, you got your things, you're going to go. And then you talk to them next and they're like, oh, I didn't really talk to anybody. The no game, I love. I got it from one of my coaches. And it's basically, you sort of set a number for yourself for the week or the month. And you say, I'm going to collect 20 no's this week.
I love that.
And what it does is it kind of like, it gives you a competitive advantage, because you're actually out, like, your goal is no longer to get that job. I mean, obviously, if you get a yes, bummer, you lost the no game. Right? So you win either way, because if I go out and I'm like, I'm going to get 20 no's, and you hit your number, it feels good. You've tricked yourself in a way to making it feel good, but you're also in the process.
Yeah.
That's one way to sort of trick yourself into enjoying the process. And I know, like, especially for those who are listening, if it's been a month or months and you're, and it is a real struggle, I get it. I'm not discounting that. This is the sort of tragic optimist view. We're not going to be like, everything's fine because I got 20 no's. If it's not fine, it's fine. Feel your feelings. But also, like, there's ways to engage with this that can make even something like that fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I do something where it's like when I'm doing like new business or outreach, like I'll give myself points for like, how significant was the thing that I did. Like if it was a Zoom call with a potential new client, I'll give myself like 10 or 20 points. If it's like an email to somebody that I already know, we're already in communication, but maybe I'm like asking for something, maybe that's like a point or 2 points. It's just like a way to gamify it, just to make it more fun, as opposed to just like, I'm just working in this vacuum and I have no idea what I'm actually doing.
Never ending.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just, and at the end of the year, it's like that I'm going through my list and I'm like, oh, like who do I want to keep in touch with the next year? So it's like just a way that I can just kind of keep everything together and organized,
Yeah,
I like that.
Absolutely.
Some good tips.
Yeah.
Good tips.
Yeah.
I liked your question in the chat there as well, Mark. What's a word for how you are feeling today? I'm into that.
Yeah. I asked that because, when we're on the street or in the call, you might have said, how are you today? Oh, I'm great. How are you? Meaningless.
Yeah. I usually like to ask it twice. When you ask it the second time to someone, then they really think about it.
Yeah. Can you be more specific? Is a good follow-up.
Good is
my answer when somebody asks me how I'm doing, if I don't really want to go deep or whatever, my answer is always net positive.
Oh yeah. That's a win.
It's a nod to the complexities of my feelings without necessarily being like, oh, well, since you asked. People like, okay, I really didn't care.
I really just wanted to take your coffee order, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Same again, latte.
Yeah. Did you want 2 sugars? Yeah. I mean, I just did this thing which blew me wide open called the Hoffman process. I know I've talked to you guys about it. It's I've got a little performance issue alert, so if my thing goes away. And one of the many things that we do is we, like, every single day, it was a 7-day thing, off grid, no phones, and every day you wake up and you talk to your coach and she'd say, I had a female coach, how much did you sleep? And how are you feeling? And you couldn't ever be like, good. And they gave you, I don't have it here, unfortunately, but, a list of like 100 different feelings, and you look and be like, I'm feeling grounded. I'm feeling worried. I'm feeling mildly anxious. I'm feeling fulfilled. I'm like all these different words for like, what is the feeling that you're kind of in touch with, and the reason I ask it is because it's just sort of a good place to start. Because we can sort of pretend like we're good and move around the world like we're good, and it is completely out of alignment with what's actually happening. And we might make some bad decisions based on how we want people to think that we're feeling. And all of a sudden we're not being authentic and blah, like things fall apart.
Yeah. So what do you suggest? Like if somebody asks you how you're doing, I mean, I know that your answer is net positive, but like how deep do you go? I guess it depends on the audience, but do you have any advice to people around like how to answer that in an authentic way? So they're not just like, oh, it's another piece of bullshit that I'm doing. And so I have like a little hit against myself when I do that, but then how do I not overshare?
Yeah. I mean, I won't lie. Like if, in certain situations, people are like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm pretty good today. Like, and I'd like a latte, like I don't need to bother everybody with my feelings. Audience is important. But if I'm at dinner with friends and they're like, oh, it's great to see you. How are you? Like I had dinner with, I don't know if you ever knew this guy, Brian Baer, who's a coach out in San Francisco. But he came to New York and he was like, can we meet up? And I haven't seen Brian in 15 years. And I was like, I gotta meet this guy. So we met up and he's like, how you doing? And I was like, well, and for him, we have a background of coaching, of being in a men's group together. And so, I was able to say things are really complex right now. So that's an answer, and then based on the reaction, you can be like, we're just going to leave it there. Or,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
maybe let's go deeper.
Yeah.
Everything can be an invitation in these conversations, but I also think it's really important to have these conversations with people. Like, you need to have a place. I'll speak for myself and literally everybody I know. You need to have a place where you can share your feelings, share your wins, you know, even small ones. In my Unleash Creativity Club, we do Friday wins, and I encourage people to share, like, did you get through? Are you still alive? Like, that's a win. Did you, you know, like for me, a win of mine every week is I got my daughter to school every day, which some days is a bigger win than others. But for me, it's like, well, of course I'm going to take my daughter to school. That's my job. It's not even my job. It's just like, it has to happen. Like, there's no, you know, it's an obligation. It's a responsibility. It's all these things, but I did it, right? Like, I showed up to it. You know, I applied to 3 jobs this week. I wanted to do 20, but I applied to 3. Okay. So like these small affirmations is such a, I like roll my eyes at all this, like, gratitude affirmations, but it's a way. Somebody said something recently that really landed for me about gratitude. It's not necessarily about sort of gratitude in name only, like, oh, I'm really grateful for flowers, and, you know, maybe you are, but like, you know, like sort of like, let me come up with 3 things. But to really sort of take a minute, we talked about breath, take a minute and just take a breath in and see if you can, like, receive the gratitude that you're actually talking about in that moment. So, like,
Can we actually do that right now? Can we, like, all take a breath?
A collective breath.
A breath.
Yeah. I know we talked about right, it says fundamentally well, which is a good answer.
That's a good answer.
It is good. It's like, okay, all right. Yeah. So if everyone who's listening wants to sort of sit and put their feet on the ground and close their eyes, we can take 3 breaths together.
All right. Let's do it.
And
game.
Thinking about gratitude and thinking about worry. I like to do this for myself. Sometimes I have to do it multiple times a day, is think about, we're about to be here for the next hour. Our notifications are off. There's nothing else that actually needs to be here. So when we breathe out, we're going to take all that worry, wherever you feel it, in your chest, your stomach, your shoulders, breathe in the gratitude that you can be here on this call or listening to this call on this rock in space. Breathe that in to that space where that worry is. And then take that worry and breathe it out. As much as you can let it go on that out breath. So take that gratitude in. You're warm in your house. You've got your favorite slippers on. Breathe it into that space in your body where you feel that anxiety, that worry. Take that worry and breathe it out. One more time. Think about what you're grateful for in this moment, in this room where you are. Breathe it in. Breathe it into that space where you feel anything that's eating at you that you have to do afterwards, that just came at you before the call. Take anything that's not here now. Breathe it out. I like to rub my hands together after something like this, get a little energy. Sometimes I pat my shoulders with it.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you for guiding us through that. I hope everyone else got to have a little go at that. That's watching. That was lovely.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, if you're in the chat and you got anything from that, maybe something you're grateful for or a slight shift in feeling, I'd love to see it in the chat. Yeah,
I do appreciate hearing the little things that others are grateful for too, the sharing. I try to do more of that, like each day, like share some of that or remind people of that stuff too. Put it out there, receive it back. Your slippers, I appreciate that.
They are awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, Corey. I agree. All live streams need a breathwork moment. Good call, mate. I'm actually grateful to this stream. I'm typing it in because we all show up here every other week, and we all kind of do some behind the scenes work, and we all try to pitch in and contribute. And you guys are there just as much as I'm there, and that's really helpful. Sometimes in our jobs, it can feel like we do a lot more of the work sometimes. It can feel thankless. But in this situation, this scenario, I feel we really all pitch in.
Yeah, I know. What a beautiful community this has been. It's been really, really amazing.
It's very cool what you guys have created.
Yeah, it's neat. And that breathing exercise for me also opened up the idea of like just being present with your feelings. It's really hard to do that when you're not feeling great. You're feeling anxious. Like the last thing you want to do is sit there and face it. Like last night, like I came home, like I had a really, it was a stressful day for me. I was just kind of feeling bad about myself when I got home. I was just very tired and just like overworked. And I just had this like pit in my like solar plexus, like just very anxious and just feeling shitty. And the first thing I wanted to do was just like, go have a drink. That'll like calm me down. Like end of a long day, have a drink. And I was like, no. I'm gonna stay with it. Maybe I had a drink later, but before I did that, I was like, I actually want to be present with this and just like kind of feel into it and acknowledge it. And that's actually the thing. And they say this like when you're having a panic attack, like don't try to like tamp the panic down, like actually run towards the feeling and meet it where it's at and acknowledge it. And that actually ironically makes it dissipate. Like it makes it go away. It's almost kind of like an entity that needs some attention. And it's like, I just want you to like acknowledge me and like, what am I feeling? And as soon as you do that, it's kind of like, oh, okay, I'm being seen. Like I feel it was an instant, not total relaxation, but it helped a lot. And I got that from that breathing exercise right now too. So it was great.
You said something like, it's almost like it's another entity.
Yeah.
Right. And I do this a lot in my work, or I see this a lot. And I think there's a lot of coaches who kind of do this kind of thing, but these voices of doubt, these voices of worry, whether it's the very loud voice of an actual panic attack, and I have been there, and obviously if you're in the middle of a panic attack, like there's other tools you can use to get yourself down, including, what you said, Joanne, like sort of don't run away from, because that'll sort of freak you out even more. Right. Like you can almost imagine, I don't know why this, okay, I'm just going to say it. So does anybody have dogs? Any of you guys have dogs?
Yes, I do.
So, like if a dog is running away from you, you don't, it's a little different. Like you don't run at it. You don't run at it and like try to control it. You play a game with it. You actually are supposed to sort of run away from it. I know it's the opposite of what I said, but the idea of engaging with it almost like on its own terms as a game, is very true. And so what I was saying before was one way of engaging with with worry, with anxiety, with whatever feelings you're having that are giving you a hard time, is to examine them almost like they're another aspect of yourself. And this is a lot of the visualization work that people do. This is stuff we did in Hoffman, is stuff you do in coaching. But the idea of, we do this exercise in the group and in the course, Joanne, which is to say just take broad strokes, like your inner critic, right? The judge or the saboteur that's in all of our heads. That's like, oh, you've been looking for work for 2 weeks, you're useless, whatever it is. I'm not unique enough. Get out a sheet and paper and, write from that voice, like give that voice the floor. And let it write all the stuff down. You're worthless. Why haven't you reached out to more people? Like let it say everything it has to say. And for me and for a lot of people I know, even just that process of giving that voice the full floor and actually writing it down is cathartic, because you're sort of moving it through your body physically with your hand. There's a physical element to it, and I think that's very important. You can also do this verbally. I mean, there's lots of ways to do it. You can do mirror work. You can do it verbally. You can do it with a friend if you've got a friend who can like hang with that. There's lots of ways to do this. But to sort of, like you said, Joanne, to sort of like go into it and not to sort of be like, no, not that. I'm great. How are you today? I'm great. Well, no, like let's be real with ourselves. Let's at least be real with ourselves when we're with ourselves.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do. I agree with you. Like there's something about getting it out of you, like writing it on paper, getting it outside of you, because you can think it all you want and I think sometimes if you see other people talking negatively about themselves, your first response is, oh no, like that's not true. But like you have to get it out of you. I think it's super cathartic. I try to do that, but it's really, as you're doing it, it makes you really emotional that you feel this way, right? To read on paper, oh, I feel worthless or I feel useless. Like that's really a sad thing, and obviously something to work on and to go through.
So here's the
to come out of you.
Yeah, and a really good point, because like, okay, so now I'm a terrible person. Now what? Right? Well, there's also other aspects of yourself. There's what I like to think about as like your aligned self, and we'll kind of, when we go into the exercise, we can kind of hit a little bit of that. But there's like your aligned self, and what Hoffman calls your intellect or your emotional self or your spiritual self, whatever works for you. But different aspects of yourselves that really believe in you, that believe a different story than what society's told you, what your parents told you, what you're telling yourself, that really like believes and trusts you. And you can also sit down and write from that place. And it feels weird, guys. It does. It's going to feel weird to be like, I'm awesome in all these ways. But LinkedIn user here on the chat just posted an article that talks about how important that is, and what, there are real benefits to taking a minute, to take a breath, to do some of this work where you're writing from your aligned self, or, there's another question I have that I want to ask, we'll figure out where that comes about, really like what are you grateful for about yourself as well? Yes, all the other things are true. You're a terrible person for all these reasons. Like, yes, it's all true. And also, I did get my kid to school, and, we do have these really great moments. And I had this really beautiful moment we have all these fights, but like we had this great moment and this great moment. Like, yes, all those things are true. And it's easy for the negative stuff to kind of get louder. So I think, and again, I'll speak for myself and everybody I've ever worked with, it's work to give those other voices the floor. And you can do it in all, almost, you can use the same methods to do that.
Yeah. I've heard the metaphor of, your higher self, like your true self, the one that is your lion or your like your best self, like who you are at your core, your spirit, your soul, whatever you want to call it. That's like the bright sunny day. It's up in the sky, you're above the clouds. It's perfect all the time. It's just unconditional love and acceptance and just love. But then all the clouds and the hail and the sleet and all the kind of bullshit that's underneath it, that's what we on Earth and like our bodies, that's what we're experiencing. Like, oh, it's stormy. Like my brain is stormy. My thoughts are negative. I feel worthless. I'm unloved. I'm unlovable. But it's like, okay, all that stuff is raining down on you, but that's not the actual truth. The truth is that you are above the clouds where it's perfect and sunny all the time. So it's just trying to remember that I am not my thoughts. Like these are not real. I'm a human having a human experience. I'm experiencing these negative emotions. But really, that's just such a small part of the reality of like who I really am. And can I look at what's happening from that perspective of like, oh, I'm having a gloomy moment. Doesn't mean that I'm a terrible person. I'm having a rough moment. I'm a human having, on Earth, and it can be a rough place. Right.
Yeah. I'm trying to post a link here in the chat. There's no, it's not. I don't know why it's not going through.
Are you in the comments or the private chat?
I'm in the comments, and it says it's failed to post. It says it's posting to someone else. Anyway, I'll just say it out loud, and you can Google it. Elizabeth Gilbert, brilliant author speaker, has a Substack that she's been leading about letters from love. And she gives people a very similar to what I talked about, but it's from the voice of love, of self-love. And she gives examples on her site, tells you how to do it. I think it's a pretty great practice to have. You don't have to do it every day, once a week or even once a month, but I see a lot of comments about how important this is for your physical health, your emotional health. And, when we're out here, in the UX world looking for work, like these are some of the things that tend to fall off. First, right? Like we take care of ourselves last sometimes when we're trying to take care of ourselves with finding a job. But that's where I say we are not a work-life balance, because if you're ignoring all those other things, then you're really focused on the goal, not the process. And yeah, I mean, there's a time and a place to really go for those things. And, I've certainly had days where I'm like, okay, I just got to focus on this. But if I find myself doing that for weeks and months, I have to take another look.
You're in the wrong spot. Real quick, I just have a super quick question. In your experience with some of your coaching work as well, we're talking a little bit about maybe being on the job search in particular, and having some of these feelings, and that is like a mountain to climb. But I imagine in your work too, you're working with people that's not their challenge. They could be in a job, they could be in a position and maybe wanting to achieve a higher level within that role. Maybe they're in an agency and work on competitive pitching or against other agencies. These challenges can kind of come even when you are in a job, but there's always this kind of mountain to climb. Are there are you seeing other scenarios a lot like that too for creatives, that there's always sort of some sort of other challenge?
There's always another mountain to climb. I mean, the interesting thing about being, and I think, as Joanne said, especially creatives, because we're really good at imagining stuff, which also, by the way, makes that voice of doubt really special. Like, what if you die? You're like, oh. I mean, none of us get out of here alive, but I do see
sooner than expected. Yeah,
right, in a very bad way. So the mountain metaphor is great, right? Because you can imagine your life up until wherever you are now, 20s, 30s, 40s, and later. I work with people. I've got people in my group in their 60s, and all the way through there. So you're climbing the next hill ahead of you always, and that might just be, okay, I want to see if I can get that job and do that job. It might be something deeper about yourself. I want to see if I can create more time and space for myself. I want to do that for it can be in any aspect of the life wheel, so to speak. And the thing is, whenever we get to that mountain peak, hill, whatever, okay, now we can actually see the next one. Now we don't have a mountain in our way, and we're like, oh, there's another one over there. That's the next thing I'd like to do. I just had a call with someone who's 73, has run 2 7-figure businesses, really interesting person, and is having this question about like, what is that next thing? You look at her life and say, well, you've done everything. Why don't you just chill? But that's not how humans work, and definitely not how creatives work. So we're always kind of looking ahead. The downside of that is that we're, there's a part of ourselves that's literally never satisfied, right? Because we're always working towards something. That's why, when you said at the beginning, like, if I can only get this, then I will be happy. Happiness is the process, and not the things that you have or things that you did. So I like that mountain metaphor a lot, because it's a good visual about how we kind of move through life. And, ideally you're moving up and the next mountain's bigger. Sometimes, like I kind of felt like I was like, all right, I'm going to kind of leave that mountain behind, go start over on this other range, I'm going to go back to school, back to training, whatever. But I was excited about moving in that direction, because I could kind of see from my perspective what I wanted to do. And I got excited about the process of doing that. Not I have to go to school. I have to do a year of work. I have to do, I have to get my hours. I have to do all this stuff, but I get to.
Yep. I get to.
I love that.
That's a good one.
I love that. I think it'd be great to move into that life wheel exercise, Mark. But before we do that, I wanted to open it up to our listeners and our viewers and all of our community that are here. Do people have any things that they want to share that maybe you guys are grateful for? Or is there like a sticky feeling that you're grappling with that maybe you'd like to be able to run towards or figure it out? So this is kind of a 2-pronged question. You can answer it however you want to.
I definitely think with some of the grappling with things, one benefit that sometimes I get from sharing that stuff with you guys in particular is that I'm often not alone in the challenges or struggles that I face in my role in this job. When I voice that out loud and I immediately get like, oh yeah, I deal with that so often too. I think, oh, okay, good. Like that helps. That helps. I don't feel
much of our jobs, especially, it's like so behind the scenes and so like confidential. So it is nice to be able to share that
Yeah, not everyone has visibility on what we do, or so it definitely helps me sometimes to know I'm not alone in some of that push. So and for designers, I think maybe whether they're on the job search or they're in the career progression kind of track, they're really trying to get to the next level. Especially in the last year, I think promotions have not been great. There hasn't been as good a clearer track for that, and it can feel there's a level of stagnation just even if within a role. I think knowing that you're not alone in some of that's a shared struggle with other people in your space. There is a power to that. It's not an answer, and it doesn't solve the problem, but at least
but there's research out of Berkeley that it's like remarkably. It seems like when I say it, it's gonna be like, oh, duh, but like,
I just money well spent on the research.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they do all this stuff, but it's good. It's just good that a scientist said it, not just me. But I was doing research for a book that I just did a couple chapters for that just came out about self-care, and I don't like that term because it doesn't mean anything, but really it's about like taking care of yourself, right? Like we all want to take care of ourselves, so let's just use English. And this study out of Berkeley, they did a study with a ton of college students, and it turns out that regular, generally positive interactions with other people has physical benefits, mental benefits, financial benefits, psychological benefits, like across like 7 different categories. Just having these regular interactions, and certainly having a group. They did it with a group. I think they did it with college students. So there was a thing that they all had in common. Maybe they were all different, majors or whatever, but they were all in something together. So, maybe you're on the job search and you're, in a community of, people are talking to other people who are also in my Unleashed Creativity Club. We're all in one way or another creative. There's people who are doing it as their work. There's people who are, sort of retired and they're looking to, actually like do more creative things. And that's what I hear a lot of is like, it's like that deep breath. It's like, whew, okay. Like, I'm not the only one who has a hard time. This person who does it every single day, it is on Facebook and Instagram and posting about all their work all the time. They're feeling it. Okay. So I'm not such a failure because I feel it. I'm not doing, as well.
I think that's such a tough part of our society now, is that everybody looks so great online. There's a recruiter I was talking to where I'm just like, oh my God, I'm like, how are you so busy these last couple years? And she's just kind of like, well, I haven't really been. I'm just posting a lot of stuff. Right. Not lies, but it's like, oh, like we're doing this. And it's like, she's just making the most of what she has. Yeah. But here I am walking away. And, it worked on me. The marketing worked on me. Like, oh, like you're killing it.
Yeah.
So,
smoke and mirrors.
We're all just making it up.
I know, life.
Literally.
We're all just muddling through. Ryan, I like what you said. Empathy is so misunderstood and underappreciated. Absolutely. Yes. I love that. Ren says, conscience, true self versus the crazy inner roommate who never shuts up.
Totally. I might steal that, Ren. That's a really good one.
That's nice.
That's great.
I love that.
I actually heard an interesting thing that makes total sense to me about introverts, because I do consider myself probably more of an introvert. And the myth is that introverts can't do this. They can't be on a call. They can't socialize. Like that's shyness. It's different. Introvert versus extrovert is about where you get your energy. It's about it's like, for me, it's about like I need space to myself. I need time to myself, and I need to actually do things that I enjoy in that time, not just scroll on social media. Like I need to read books. I need to use my hands. Like I love chopping wood. That's like some of my favorite stuff to do upstate. Where was I going with introverts? The thing about introverts that's really tough is that introverts tend to, there's science, like tend to sort of have more of like call it empathy, or just like they read people, like, you know, because they're like sort of protective of their energy. And so when two introverts get together, like what can often happen is they're so respectful of the other person's energy. They're like, oh, I get you want to be left alone. So what happens is if you're an introvert at a party, all you get is surrounded by all these extroverts who like don't read your energy. And you're like, wait, this is the worst. So one of the things that I really like about the groups, you know, that I'm working with is there are folks in there who are introverts, and we have, you know, and we have space for that. And we actually have even some sort of trainings around how to sort of engage with that, because everyone, you know, everyone is on the job search or whatever everyone is doing. We're all coming at it with different energies and different needs. And that's where it's really important to listen to that voice of, you know, self-love or the higher self, the aligned self. Yeah, Josh, chopping wood for me. I mean, when I went to the Hoffman process, you know, there is some physically expressive work, and, you know, to sort of get some of these feelings out. And, you know, they were all like, oh, does anybody have anything at home? And I'm like, I absolutely do. Like slamming into wood with a sharp metal axe, like there's no better feeling.
Yeah.
And to think about sort of connecting that activity with working through a feeling or looking through a feeling, like you were saying about panic attacks, Joanne, being like, I'm feeling really anxious or angry or, you know, what, or happy or whatever the feeling is. You don't have to have a negative feeling, but to physically work that through is, I think a very powerful thing.
I feel like that's come up a few times on Design Unfiltered, that I think people get in this hamster wheel of like, I have to work on my portfolio and my resume, and I got to send it out to 20 people every day. And then I got to rinse and repeat and do it all over again. And so many times either we have or our guests have said, it's really about getting in your body and getting present, like just to get out of that mental hamster wheel. And that's when actually like new ideas can come to you.
Yeah.
Like you're breaking the system and letting things just come up. Like I made a couple albums with this producer in New York, and his process that he would bake in was that we'd work all day in the studio, and he, like, for him, watching the news was relaxing. Crazy guy, but that was his thing. He'd watch the news for like 2 hours, and that's when he would come up with ideas. Like that's when things would just pop up. It's like, oh, like we should put like a horn section on this section, or like, oh, let's do some like harmonies here.
Yeah, there's plenty of science about why that works. Our right brain, the creative side of our brain, what it is there's a name for it. I think it's called the default network or default mode thinking. And you can't get into that by focusing on a problem. You know, when we're focused on a problem, we're using the math brain. We're solving stuff. We're trying to figure out solutions. And so, and you know, if you're creative, like you can probably get a lot done with that. It's not to say like don't use your left brain, but when and I think, I mean, in my world, this is very common, right? But like you're taking a shower, you're walking your dogs and not looking at your phone. You're staring at this.
Driving the car.
Yeah, driving a car and just letting your mind wander. That's when the default network hits. And what happens, the reason the right brain thinking is one of the reasons that it's so creative is that what it does is it starts to, like, these ideas that you've been solving this and solving this and solving this, they start to kind of like spread out a little bit. And you start to form what I like to think of as kind of like unlikely connections. You ever had that happen where you're like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't even realize I had this problem, but I was doing this other thing, and I could just actually kind of, you know, connect those ideas, or I actually have this skill. I could actually do that thing instead of, you know, whatever. Or I know somebody who said they wanted to do it for me. I mean, this happened to me with the group. I mean, it's sort of dumb of me, but I'll say it anyway. I had someone in the group who was a marketing expert. We have a couple people actually, but one of them has been messaging me for probably a couple months at that point, you know, saying like, hey, love to help out, love to help out, love to help out. Meanwhile, and I'm like, you know, I'm like solving the group, and I'm like, no, I don't, I'm good. And then, you know, meanwhile, I'm talking to my coach about I need marketing help.
It's like
never connected for me, right? You know, and I remember, I think it was around the time that I did Hoffman, where I had plenty of default time because I didn't have my phone. That I was like, wait a minute, what if I just asked her what she meant? Like, what do you think that would look like? Because in my head, I'm like, I can't afford, you know, someone full time, and I want to wait till I have that goal. I want to wait till I have enough money. I want to wait till I have. I'm like, what if I just told her what I've got, and asked her, what do you think you could do within this? And now we're working together.
Yay, I love that. Great.
Yeah, she's doing incredible work. So if you're listening, you know who you are.
I love that. Well, we have 10 minutes left.
Okay.
Why don't we do the exercise, Mark, if you want to lead that?
Yeah,
And,
well, we'll do the speed round, and then I've actually got a question at the end. I don't know if we can go over even at all, but let's pull up the wheel. Okay, so we've talked a lot about this stuff, and again, I'm going to sort of speed through, and I'm going to use you guys as as examples. If everyone, let's see, I'm going to post a link. You can actually, or maybe if I can't post it, it's in our private chat. Let's see. Nope. Maybe one of you can post that.
I can take
that
it from
second link in our private chat. You can download this worksheet. It's a whole worksheet that outlines how it works. But we're just going to kind of do the first part today. So when I work with people, a lot of times they come and they have a problem to solve. I want to make more money. I want my career to be going a better way. That's a very, very common one where people come because they're willing to invest in something that has a financial benefit, right? Mm-hmm. So that's, but one of the first things that we do is we look at this wheel, and this wheel is like let's call it standard areas of your life. Now you can look at it and you can create your own wheel if you want. There's no hard and fast rules. Like a lot of times people split the health slice of the pie into mental health and physical health. And you'll see why they do that in a second. But for now, just take these, as they are. We'll just use it as an example. And one thing, what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of these areas, and the breath work is important here, because you can kind of, when I ask you the question, you're going to kind of like take a breath and just sort of feel the feeling and give yourself a number from 1 to 10. And the question, same question for all of them, is where is your level of satisfaction in that area of your life right now? And I want to be clear, satisfaction is quality, not quantity. So example, I asked somebody about money, and they said, I'm a 2. And I said, oh, okay. They said, yeah, I don't have a lot of money. I said, right. But how satisfied are you? They're like, well, I have enough money. I don't want to make more money. I'm good with money. And I'm like, oh, so it sounds like you're actually pretty satisfied. They're like, oh yeah, I'm more like a 7 or an 8. So that's the distinction that I like to give people, because it's not about like, I don't have it, because then you can get into comparison stuff, right? I'm not as healthy as them. I'm not as young as them. I don't do enough fun stuff. I see all my friends doing fun. It's just about you. Like, are you good with these areas of your life? So I will rapid fire ask these questions. Does any one of you want to live give your answers? I don't put you on the spot. And I'll also as a caveat, I'll give my answers if you want. As a caveat, so I'll start with. You want me to do myself? I can like do my own answer.
We can all do them together.
You want to do it?
We'll fire them out.
Why don't you do it?
Erica, you're gonna play with me.
Yay.
Okay. Go.
So let's start with an easy one, or an easy one at least to sort of get your head around, which is friends and family. If you were to take a breath and to think about the friends and family you have in your life, scale of 1 to 10, where do you think your level of satisfaction is?
I feel very satisfied. So I would probably say a 10, honestly.
Okay, great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and there's no judgment here for wherever you are. If you feel like I feel like I'm at an absolute 10, awesome. And normally when I'm doing this, I'm drawing on the screen and I'm marking people so you can kind of see. We can't do that now. So if you have your own sheet, you can mark on your sheet. You can draw this on a piece of paper right now if you don't want to download the thing. Just get it down.
Yeah.
So this is the one that is also hard, like significant other. I'll just tell you, like, my level of satisfaction is often I'm often like 6.5, 7. People are like, ooh, and I'm like, no, it's just because I'm aware of that mountain. Like we're net positive, and I know that there's areas that I'm looking forward to growing there. So it's about like also like I think there's room for me to grow. Like I could be more satisfied. So. And also, significant other doesn't have to be a partner, or maybe you don't have some, in your life, and you're like good with that. So where would your level of satisfaction, that feeling, be?
I don't have a partner, so I'm not satisfied with that, honestly.
And you're not, okay.
But But yeah, I mean, I'm also happy-ish with where I am
Okay.
currently anyways. So I would probably say like on the lower end, maybe like a 3 or 4.
Okay. Let's rapid fire these next ones because I know we got time. But your education, your personal growth, your learning, what's the number there for satisfaction?
I would say probably a 6.
Okay. So we got 10, we got 3, 4, we got 6. How about the fun and leisure, entertainment, that kind of stuff in your life?
Probably a 7.
Mm-hmm. What about your home environment?
Ooh, an 8. But it's not this chateau behind me.
I was going to say that chateau is a 10, baby.
I'm like, that's a 12.
This is a 10, an 11.
Career.
All right, I'm gonna be honest here. Probably a 3.
Okay.
Which is really hard for me to say, and that's for a variety of reasons. But
I want to acknowledge you for saying that here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can have a lot of success and have that feeling of dissatisfaction. Like I look at you online and I'm like, geez, killing it, right? But you can still have that feeling.
Okay. That's
Definitely.
Awesome.
that's why I was so excited to talk to you.
okay.
We can talk more, but let's just do the last couple. But money in your life, like, what's your feeling of satisfaction around money in your life?
Probably also a 3.
Yeah. And mental, physical health.
So I feel like I've spent a lot of time on my health, so I do feel pretty good. I would probably say a 7 in terms of also like mental health and growth and self-awareness. So I'd definitely say 7.
Okay. So just to review, we've got so like friends and families at a 10, significant other is a little lower, 3, 4, personal growth. The other ones are kind of all, the next 3 are hovering around 7, 8, and then we've got career and money, which are lower, and and health, which is also kind of like net positive.
Yeah.
So if we had more time, I'd sort of examine like, okay, like when you look at this, what is the feeling you have? We can look at that. But one thing that I find especially valuable about this exercise is to bring some focus into one area. And sometimes it's the area that you knew, and sometimes it's not. Like, you had, it could, I'll ask the question and you'll see, but like, it doesn't necessarily have to be your lowest score.
Mm-hmm.
And the question that I ask that's in the worksheet that you can download is, if you could take any one of these areas, Erica, any one of them, and however you can move that level of satisfaction up 1 point, 2 points, which one area would naturally elevate the other ones?
I think health.
Interesting. And just for people watching, like, there were lower numbers than health. And it's easy to go, oh, I got to go work on that. But to think about it, like, well, which one would naturally bring up, which one would naturally bring up these other areas sometimes is something else. And that's why we're talking about it's not a work-life balance, right? Work is one of the slices of the wheel of your life.
Yes.
When I think about balance, this is what I think about. How you just gave us a lot, Erica. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Listen, I had another conversation with my health coach earlier this morning for fitness and nutrition. And I'm kind of resetting myself with that as well. I've been doing it for a while. And at some point you kind of get like stuck and you just feel like I need a freaking reset. So I always know that sleep, as little as I get, is really helpful for every other aspect. So we made like a plan this morning, like get in bed by 9:30 or something.
So that's a good follow-up question. Yeah. Again, it's in the worksheet, but for people who are watching and don't download it, it's like, okay, so you do these levels of satisfaction. You identify the area that would naturally affect other areas. And then exactly what my next question would be. Well, what's one thing that you can think of that would start to move that in the right direction? It sounds like sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Even
I've always been a night owl.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of creatives are night owls, and it's really hard to like change that. So I'm conscious that, you know, when I first got my dog, he used to wake me up really early, and I was like, oh my God, it's 5 a.m. I never get up this early. But I actually really loved those hours, especially in the city. It's so quiet. So I really want to get back to that. So I have to, you know, work backwards. Like, okay, if I get 7 hours of sleep, which is my magic number, I think any more than that, it doesn't matter. It's too much. If I can get 7 hours of sleep, that means I have to go to bed at this time, which means I need to come up with a better evening routine. I'm not great at routines. I'm not great at sticking to something.
Well,
and
I mean, that's a story that you have.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, my
I
coach
like it.
she said that it's because I don't have a routine that excites me.
Okay. So that's it. You don't have a routine that excites you. It's
Right.
not that you're bad at routines necessarily.
Right.
Right. We're all bad at stuff that we haven't figured out how to do. Like when I walked into jujitsu the first day, like I was not good at it. That's insane to think that would be true.
Yeah.
When you're like starting to approach a new practice, whether it's routines or habits, you know, it's great, I think, to just acknowledge that you've got that, you know, you got that white belt on, you've got that beginner's mind. Like there's more for me to learn here than I possibly, you know, than I could possibly probably ever. And you start with what's in front of you. I like what James Clear says about this, about sort of casting. He talks about like casting votes. Like every micro decision we make is like a vote that we cast for the person that we want to be. I want to be someone who's getting up in the morning, who's rested. I want to be someone who other people look to whatever way. And going to bed half an hour early is me actually casting a vote for that, you know, for that, for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Marc, I feel like we could talk for hours and hours and hours. That was such a beautiful coaching session. Thank you for doing that with Erica.
Well, thank you, Erica, for playing along.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thanks to everybody who joined today. Design Unfiltered, number 19. What a great session. Really, thank you so much, Marc, for being here.
Oh my God, it was my pleasure.
Knowledge and guidance and exercise and just it's just really lovely to have you. And since we are at the end of the hour, how do people work with you? Let me actually put this the sign up for the Unleash Creativity Club open house. Do you want to talk a little bit about that or how people can work with you?
Yeah. So, well, there's two ways to work with me, and it's all on my website. But you know, you can book a session with me to explore private coaching, which I do with people. This is you got a little taste today of my vibe. But the Unleash Creativity Club, yeah. So it's a course and a community for creatives, and we have creatives of lots of different kinds. There's a lot of visual artists in there. That's my background, so it's just like more people know me there. But the work that we do is deep inner work, kind of like the stuff that we were doing today and the stuff that we've talked about today. And it happens to be a community like we were talking about before, like who all have this common interest of being creative. So we're all coming at it from different angles, different places in our career, different ages, but we all have this interest in really, being in touch and expressing and letting that creativity through. So the work that I do in the group as the coach is the course, the initial course is I'm going to go over all this in the open house. I'll just say that there's an open house on Tuesday. We're going to do a whole session. So we just did 10 minutes today. We're going to do a 90-minute session on Tuesday where we're going to do, you're going to get to meet some folks in the community. We're going to go through an exercise. We're going to have some discussion, some Q&A. And if people are curious about what it is, and I'll say up front, the open house is free, and I'm not going to harass you after that. I'm going to tell you, yes, you can sign up for the course and here's how much it is and all that other stuff. Yeah. But I'm not going to harass you. I'm not going to put you on my mailing list. You can show up and you can disappear. I hope you don't. But, I'll probably email you after for like a feedback or like, what'd you think? Or, do you want to talk? But I'm not going to come at you forever. And so the goal of the open house is for you to get real value out of it. Like I want to go through this exercise, and the exercise this open house is a lot about like what we've talked about. Like people are feeling overwhelmed. We only have half a month, 3/4 of a month. There's not enough time. And, you know, how are we going to actually create from that space the life that we want, even in the next 3 weeks? So I'm looking forward to that. And I hope people can come.
Yeah, great. That's going to be Tuesday at what time?
1:00 p.m.
1 o'clock
Yeah, Jared posted the link, I think, in the chat. But if you, yeah, and I have to update the website. But if you go to unleashcreativity.club, we are sending a newsletter about it, so you can get on the mailing list.
Oh, great, awesome. We have lots of your links here. We'll also post the links when we do the replay and post the replay on LinkedIn. So we'll get all the links for everyone, so you can work with Marc. He's incredible. I highly recommend him. You got to see his magic here today, so awesome. Yay.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Ciao.